The recording has started.
Thank you, and I believe we'll begin with Dr. Bullock with the roll call.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Blanton?
I'm here.
Thank you. I am also here. Ms. Weisner?
Present.
Vice Chair Fleming?
Present.
Ms. Edwards?
Present.
Thank you. Ms. Patton? Shannon Patton?
Present.
Dr. Locklear? Dr. Elliott?
Good afternoon. I'm present.
Thank you. Dr. Penfield?
Present.
Superintendent Truitt?
Here.
Mrs. Jones?
Here.
Ms. Hoskins?
Here.
Dr. Weddington?
Here.
Dr. Griffin?
Present.
Mr. Smith? Dr. Floyd? Ms. Jenkins? Dr. Winter? I thought Kim Winter was here.
I see her on the screen.
You do not?
I do.
Yeah, I thought she was here as well. Maybe it's okay. I'm counting
If she's
14.
speaking, then she's not unmuted.
Okay. All right. I'm counting 14 present. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, I believe 5 staff members present. And I don't think we have any other guests.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. That's all. Back to you, Aaron.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome commission members, advisors, staff, on-site visitors, and online listeners to the October 12th, 2023 monthly meeting of the North Carolina Professional Educator Preparation and Standards Commission. This Standards Commission develops and recommends to the State Board of Education rules related to all aspects of educator preparation, licensure, continuing education, and professional standards of North Carolina educators. I am Aaron Fleming, Vice Chair of the Professional Educator Preparation and Standards Commission, and I call this meeting to order. Our agenda and materials are available online through the DPI website, www.ncpublicschools.org, on the SBE meetings link. The meeting is also audio streamed through a link located at the bottom of the e-board agenda. I will now read the ethics statement that is required of us. Commission members are reminded that it's our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of this commission. Does any member of the commission know of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting? If so, please state them for the record. If during the course of the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the vice chair. It will be then your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and voting from the matter. Commission members, you have had an opportunity to review the proposed agenda for today's meeting. Do I have a motion to approve this agenda for the October 12, 2023 meeting?
So moved. Hank.
Second,
Thank
Scott.
you, Hank. All right, motion was made and seconded to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
No. Motion carries. The agenda is now approved. The minutes from our previous commission meetings on September 14, 2023 have been prepared and made available to you. Do I have a motion to approve these minutes?
Madison, I motion.
Thank you.
Second, this is Randy.
Thank you, Randy. Motion been made and seconded to approve the minutes from September 14th, 2023. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion carries. The minutes are approved. The link for the October State Board of Education meeting has been sent to you prior to this meeting. The recording is bookmarked at the presentations for the Educator Standards and Practices ESMP Committee, which is the committee that handles the work of PEPC. We will move on to NCDPI staff updates and discussion. Dr. Kim Evans will present a policy amendment to LICN 003.
Good afternoon, everyone. Last month, I brought LICN 003 to introduce the cut score for CTE EdTPA test. And the cut score was 33 that was proposed. That was taken to the board. However, stakeholders in the field have requested a phase-in time period to be able to prepare the test for candidates within those CTE licensure areas. And as a result, we have added the text with the 3 asterisks. And it says, until July 1st, 2024, a candidate may use either the Principles of Learning and Teaching Assessment 5624 or the Career and Technical Education CTE EdTPA assessment to fulfill the pedagogy assessment requirement. The Principles of Learning and Teaching PLT assessment 5624 will not be accepted to fulfill the pedagogy assessment requirement as of July 1st, 2024. So what is being proposed here is that July 1st, 2024 be the effective date for the CTE EdTPA assessment as far as it being a consequential date for that. It can be used prior to July 1st, 2024, as well as the Principles of Learning and Teaching assessment to fulfill the pedagogy assessment. However, the CTE EdTPA assessment would not be required until July 1st, 2024. And at that time, then the PLT or the Principles of Learning and Teaching assessment would no longer be accepted as the pedagogy assessment for CTE licensure areas. And so that's the text that we're adding this month, and it would return to the state board for action in November. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Before we have a motion, any questions for Dr. Evans? If someone would like to make a motion to approve them.
This is Ann. I'll make a motion to approve this phase-in or clause.
All right, motion made to approve the effective date for the EdTPA assessment for CTE to State Board of Education Policy LICN 003 to be sent to the state board in November. Is there a second? I missed that part. All right, thank you. Motion been made and second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed say no. All right, motion carries. Thank you. Now, Dr. Tomberlin will present policy amendments to LICN 001 for discussion and action.
Thank you, Dr. Fleming. This is Tom Tomberlin, Senior Director of Educator Preparation, Licensure, and Performance. And I am bringing to you some proposed revisions to LICN 001 based on, in part, the recent passage of the appropriations bill and also just for some general cleanup. I will just generally let you know that one of the things that we've been wanting to do is remove references to school systems or LEAs and replace it with PSU. So you will find those replacements throughout this document. I will not cover them specifically, but just be aware that they're there, and that's part of what's being approved. I'd like to start off with the substantive policy revisions on page 6 of the policy, and that is section 120D, North Carolina Educator License for Out-of-State Educators. So pursuant to the changes in the recent budget bill, out-of-state educators can qualify for a North Carolina license if they hold a valid and current out-of-state license. Previously, there was language indicating that the person could only qualify for a continuing professional license if he or she provided effectiveness data. We have stricken that language from the policy as it was removed in statute. So moving forward, educators from out of state who have a valid and current license in good standing may use that license to apply for licensure in North Carolina. If you look down below here, we clarify the requirements for that. Out-of-state applicants who are fully licensed in another state and have 3 or more years of teaching experience in another state or states, and have met comparable testing requirements in another state or hold national board certification, and we've stricken the effectiveness data requirement there, may be issued a continuing professional license. And there are some caveats to this. The first being applicants must provide documentation that he or she completed an educator prep program approved by the state in which the program resides. So even though you have a license, we still need to know that you've completed an educator preparation program that was approved by the state as a condition of that license. So we still, for those of you who work in this area, the applicant would still need a Form V, a verification of completion of an ed prep program. And number 2, the second asterisk, comparable testing requirement is defined as a passing score on an examination that is approved by the state from which the educator license was issued and fulfills in part the requirement to convert the license to a continuing license in that state. So this language, I want to clarify what we mean by this. The applicant took a test that was the test of record in the state from which he holds that license. Furthermore, there's been some confusion of people presenting tests that are not the test of record for converting the license. So if you think about it in North Carolina, we take the PLT in order for admission to an ed prep program. We have folks that are submitting those Praxis 1 scores as a comparable test, and those aren't comparable. So we want to make sure we clarified here that whatever it's the other state's version of the test, the content exam to move one to a continuing professional license. Educators applying for an elementary education or ECGC general curriculum license must meet the math and reading subtest requirement pursuant to General Statute 115C 270-15A. So the requirement that we have a subtest of math and reading is still applicable to out-of-state folks who have more than three years of experience. And then the rest of this is just striking that we had those 2 different situations delineated, and we didn't need to do that. We could put it all into one. So we've struck the rest of that. And I will pause here because that is the first kind of statutory update to the licensure policy. And I'm happy to take any questions. All right. A little further down, those with fewer than 3 years of teaching experience, that the change in the law does not apply to them. So we're maintaining the current policy that if you are teaching in any subject area other than, if you have a license and fewer than 3 years of teaching experience in any license area besides elementary and ECGC, and you completed a test of record in another state, we'll accept that. However, elementary and ECGC, of course, if it's fewer than 3 years, you must take the state's version of the Pearson Foundations of Reading or Foundations of Mathematics or the Practice CKC. All right, moving on. I do want to point out in the provisional license requirements, I just want to make sure everybody sees this. We no longer issue provisional licenses in speech language pathology. There was some language about some condition under which we might do it. That is no longer applicable, so we have stricken that from the policy. And then on assistant principals, we just removed the effective July 1999 language from that. And now if we skip down to page 12, the most recent appropriations bill did provide for the renewal of a limited license, and so, but with some condition. So moving forward, the limited license will be renewable. The process is largely the same for renewing it as it is for getting an initial limited license. That is, the employing LEA, the superintendent and the supervising principal must sign an affidavit to the effectiveness of the teacher, and that they will encourage the teacher to seek pursue a continuing professional license. There is one difference, however, for this. If the teacher applying for a renewal of the limited license has EVOS data, then that teacher must meet or exceed expected growth on their EVOS measure in order to renew the license. Now, in order to prevent confusion about what that exactly means, our proposed policy to you is that for a teacher who has EVOS data, we look at the entire period of their prior limited license. So the prior 3 years that they held the first limited license. Any available EVOS data in those 3 years will be averaged together, and the resulting score will be assigned a value of does not meet, meet, or exceeds according to our standard practice around that. And that will determine whether the educator qualifies to renew that limited license. We do stipulate in this a teacher's EVOS data from the 2019-20 or the 2020-21 school year shall not be considered in the termination of eligibility for renewing the limited license. And the reason is in 1920, we did not have teacher level EVOS, so that can't be used. And in 2021, we did have teacher level EVOS data, but as you'll recall, we decided not to use that for any consequential decisions. So no bonuses were attached. We didn't use it for any of the things that we normally use EVOS for. So it seems that we should not use it in this case either. So with those two exceptions, that's how NCDPI is proposing that we meet that we address that EVOS requirement for renewing a limited license. And that is the end.
All right, any questions for Dr. Comer?
Dr. Penfield's raised his hand.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Hey, Dr. Tomberlin. With respect to the using the EVOS data, and using the 3 years, I'm curious if is there a situation where a teacher might, for example, have, the scores may vary across 3 years, and for example, the class sizes might have varied substantially such that there's more error in one of the scores than the other two. And the way you articulated it, it sounds as though each 3 scores would be given equal weight in computing that average. And so I'm just curious if there's a potential for 1 year that has more error in it to be given equal weight and, impact the results disproportionately. Am I thinking about that right? Or maybe I'm missing something?
Right. No, it's a great question, Dr. Penfield. And so in this, we stipulate we're using the index score. So in EVOS, there is a growth measure that is estimated for the teachers for their students they serve. But we do also calculate a standard error for that measure. And so in those situations that you're talking about, so 1 year the teacher taught smaller classes, they would have a much higher standard error for their growth measure, which would tend to pull them back to the center. But where teachers teach much larger classes, the standard error would be smaller. And so that's the way we would account for that, because each year's index score would have its own associated standard error with it. And so the index should be a more unbiased estimate of the teacher's distance from the mean in that year. Does that help?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from you is that the standard error is included in the calculation of that index score.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve the policy amendments to LICN 001 to be sent to the State Board of Education in November?
So moved. This is Catherine.
This is Randy. Second.
Great, thank you. Motion been made and seconded to approve the policy amendments to LICN 001. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Tomberlin. Next, a draft of the Pepsi bylaws as directed by General Statute 115C-268.1D will be open for discussion. This month, we will finalize and take action. We must have these approved prior to the election that will immediately follow. And I'm going to ask Dr. Evans, I believe she has them up there now. Happy to hear any thoughts or discussions on this. I know we've talked about it a few times. And I do believe we have legal counsel in here for any questions as well. I believe I saw Ms. Schaefer in here. So I will open it to the floor. Or open the floor up. If there is no discussion, do I have a motion to approve the Pepsi bylaws to manage and guide the commission effective immediately?
This is Scott. Motion to approve.
Thanks, Scott. Second? Is there a second?
Second, Bill.
Great. Thank you, Bill. Motion made and seconded to approve Pepsi bylaws immediately. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? No. Motion carries and the bylaws are now effective. Our last agenda item is to elect leadership for Pepsi. To prepare and provide an efficient process for the election, we requested interest in 3 leadership positions, chair, vice chair, and secretary, by polling members who have served on Pepsi for at least a year, which qualifies members to serve in these roles, as stated in Pepsi bylaws section 4.3. For the election process, Dr. Evans will share slides listing who is interested in running for each position. If anyone would like to add a nomination to this list, please speak up. After all nominations are established, Dr. Bullock will provide a roll call vote and declare the nominee with majority votes. If no nominee receives a majority vote, the 2 candidates with the highest number of votes shall then be presented to the members in a runoff election. Then Dr. Bullock declares the candidate that receives the majority of the votes by members in attendance to be elected to that position. We will start with the position of chair. Dr. Evans, if you could put that list up.
I just want to make sure everyone can hear, because I've gotten feedback that people are having trouble hearing.
Kim, I'm good. I think I got flipped to the Wi-Fi at the school and it messed me up.
I see. Okay, thank you, Madison.
You have 1 individual interested in chair, and I will open the nominations up for any additional individuals that meet the 1-year requirement. Hearing none, I will accept the motion to close nominations of chair.
Hey, this is Chris. I make a motion that we close the nominations for chair of Pepsi.
Scott, I will second that.
Thank you very much. All those in favor of closing nominations say aye.
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 Those no. All right, motion carries. Nominations are closed. I assume that since Dr. Bullock is the only nomination for chair, do we still need to vote on her? I assume she is it, but if we need to vote again, we can. All right, very good. All right. I believe, Dr. Bullock, you will, I know you're calling the roll. If you can call the roll and we can give the name of our chair vote.
Okay, this shouldn't be awkward for anybody. Okay, ready?
know.
Dr. Blanton?
Dr.
Just
Bullock.
say. Thank you. I'll abstain. Ms. Weisner?
Dr. Bullock.
Thank you. Vice Chair Fleming?
Dr. Bullock.
Ms. Edwards?
Dr. Bullock.
Thank you. Ms. Patton?
Dr. Bullock.
I don't believe Dr. Locklear has joined us. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Dr. Elliott?
Dr. Ann Bullock.
Thank you, Scott. Dr. Penfield?
Dr. Bullock.
Superintendent Truitt?
Dr. Bullock.
Mrs. Jones?
Dr. Bullock.
Thank you. Ms. Hoskins?
Dr. Bullock.
Dr. Whittington?
Dr. Bullock.
Dr. Griffin?
Congratulations, Dr. Bullock.
Thank you, Bill. I don't believe Mr. Smith, Dr. Floyd, or Ms. Jenkins has joined us. Is that correct, Kim?
That is correct.
And Dr. Winter? She's having audio.
She has
issues.
been having audio.
Yeah.
She chatted in Dr. Bullock.
Okay, thank you. All right. I think that passes, Aaron.
Very good. And
Thank you,
congratulations,
everyone.
Dr. Bullock. You will be chair in just a couple minutes. Thank goodness. We will now repeat this process for vice chair. We have 4 individuals that have been nominated or that were eligible and agreed to serve and be nominated as vice chair. Dr. Ann Bullock, who I guess can still be on this list. Bill
Please
Griffin.
take me off. I'd like to
Hank
withdraw
Weddington.
that. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Madison Edwards. I will open up for any additional nominations. Hearing none, I'll accept the motion to close nominations.
This is Randy. I move to close nominations.
Scott,
Thank you, Randy.
second.
Thanks, Scott. All right. Motion made second to close nominations. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. In that case, we have 4 nominations for vice chair: Bill Griffin, Hank Weddington, Madison Edwards. Dr. Bullock, I'm going to ask you to take the role and everyone vote for your individual that you'd like to serve for vice chair.
Okay, so just to be clear, do not vote for me. This is Ann. And they're going to, my understanding is, if this is correct, I want to make sure we're doing this correctly, is you will give the name of the person that you want to vote for. Is this the correct process?
That is the correct process. And if someone receives or 2 individuals receive the same number of votes, we will do it again with just those 2 individuals as a runoff.
Okay,
I
All right,
think Ms.
thank you.
Schaefer said something.
okay, Allison.
Yeah, this is Allison. I just wanted the record to reflect that Dr. Bullock is on her nomination.
I'm sorry,
Dr. Bullock withdrew her nomination.
yes.
Yes.
So it's three candidates.
3 candidates.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
Are we good, Allison?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, very good then. All right, so when I call your name, please identify the person that you would like to not vote for vice chair. Dr. Blanton,
Dr. Bill Griffin,
Ms. Wisner,
Dr. Griffin,
Vice Chair Fleming,
Dr. Bill Griffin.
Ms. Edwards,
Am I able to abstain?
yes.
Okay.
Ms.
So-
Patton,
Dr. Griffin.
Dr. Locklear is still not here. Dr. Elliott,
Madison Edwards.
Dr. Penfield,
Dr. Weddington.
Superintendent Truitt,
Madison Edwards.
Mrs. Jones,
I'm abstaining from this vote.
thank you. Ms. Hoskins,
Madison Edwards.
Dr. Weddington,
I'll abstain.
thank you. Dr. Griffin, did you say abstain, Bill? I'm sorry, I just didn't hear you.
That's correct.
Dr. Smith, Dr. Floyd, and Dr. Jenkins are not here. Dr. Winter. Did she vote in the chat? Dr. Weddington, okay. I also voted for Dr. Weddington. Okay. 1, 2. So 4 for Dr. Griffin. For Dr. Weddington. And 3 for Dr. Edwards. Kim, is that what you have as well?
That is correct.
So Dr. Griffin has the majority votes.
But we would need to have a runoff between Ms. Edwards and Dr. Griffin for one of them to have the majority.
I have one, two, I have 3 for Miss Edwards, and I have 4 for Dr. Griffin.
But I think out of the entire attendance, there would need to be a majority.
Oh, out of the entire okay, so it's 4, 3, and 3, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So do we need to have? Okay, somebody help us. All right.
So I think the question is how do we determine if it's 4, 3, and 3, who the 2 top vote getters are? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Could you go, this is Allison Schaefer, could you go back and name, I have different numbers.
You mean to review what I have?
Yes,
Okay. And is this Allison talking? I'm sorry.
it's Allison talking, yes.
Yeah. I have Dr. Blanton voted for Bill Griffin. I have that I voted for Dr. Weddington. I have that Ms. Weisner voted for Bill Griffin, who I could call Dr. Griffin, sorry. I have that Vice Chairman Fleming voted for Dr. Griffin. I have that Ms. Edwards abstained. I have that Ms. Patton voted for Dr. Griffin. I have that Dr. Elliott voted for Ms. Edwards. I have that Dr. Penfield voted for Dr. Weddington. I have that Superintendent Truitt voted for Ms. Edwards. I have that Ms. Jones abstained. I have that Ms. Hoskins voted for Ms. Edwards. I have that Dr. Weddington abstained and Dr. Griffin abstained. And I have that Dr. Winter voted for Dr. Weddington.
That is 433.
Kim, this is Scott. So my understanding is with 10 voting members here, a majority would be 6 votes. Is that correct?
Yes.
So would it be fair to have, and Allison, feel free to jump in, to have a quote runoff between Dr. Weddington and Ms. Edwards, and then have the majority of that to vote off to run again against Dr. Griffin?
Yes, that would be a way to solve the issue of them tying.
Recommend that we revote.
So yeah, you could run off your second and third place to determine who would
And run off against Dr. Griffin.
against, right, correct.
Dr. Bullock, how many votes did you get for Dr. Weddington?
3.
Okay.
Mine, Dr. Penfield, and Dr. Winter.
I see. Okay. Thank you for that clarification. So then it would be between Dr. Weddington and Miss Edwards first. Is that correct?
I'm asking
Correct.
if that would be fair. I think that's fair, but I want to make sure that we're following protocol that we need to follow. So I was asking Allison if that seemed an appropriate thing for us to move to.
It does, if to identify a second, basically a runner-up to Dr. Griffin. If that's okay with everyone, I'm not sure it's provided for exactly that way in the bylaws, but I had heard someone start to speak up about just revoting the whole thing.
I can't hear Allison. So Aaron, what did she say?
Well, she said that it would be, you could do that one.
Or you could just revote.
Or you could either
Or just revote everyone in the event that a vote change.
Right. Either those are 2 ways of resolving the tie between Dr. Williams and Dr. Edwards, and either one is fine. You all can decide how you prefer to do it.
Then I'm going to suggest we vote for a runoff between Dr. Weddington and Miss Edwards, and then from there, we would then have that individual, and then we would do a roll call vote with that roll call vote with that individual and Dr. Griffin. That's correct.
Okay.
Vice Chair.
So we'll now.
This is Hank. I am happy to withdraw from this particular election so you can go ahead and do a runoff between the other 2.
That is your choice, Dr. Weddington.
I would like that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Whittington. So we will have a roll call vote with Dr. Bill Griffin and Ms. Madison Edwards.
Okay, are we ready? So
And that
you
may
would
be
choose-
Dr. Madison Edwards. I apologize if I have that incorrect.
No, I'm not a doctor. Not yet. Thank you, though.
So you will choose, you will state whether you are going to vote for Dr. Griffin or Miss Edwards in this, this roll call that I'm now going to do.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
just make sure. Okay, here we go. Ready? Dr. Blanton?
Dr. Griffin,
Thank you. I will vote for Miss Edwards. Dr. Wisner, Miss Wisner, excuse me.
Dr. Griffin.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Fleming,
Dr. Griffin.
Miss Edwards.
I'm going to abstain again.
Okay, thank you. Miss Patton,
Dr. Griffin.
thank you. Dr. Locklear is not here. Dr. Elliott,
I'll vote for Bill Griffin.
thank you. Dr. Penfield,
Ms. Edwards?
thank you. Superintendent Truitt,
Ms. Edwards?
thank you. Mrs. Jones,
I'm abstaining.
okay, thank you. Ms. Hoskins,
Miss Edwards?
Dr. Weddington,
Dr. Griffin?
thank you. Mr. Smith is not here. Dr. Floyd is not here. Ms. Jenkins is not here. Dr. Winter. Miss Edwards. Okay. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3. I have 5 votes for Miss Edwards. And I have 1, 2. Six votes for Dr. Griffin. Is that what you have, Kim?
That is correct.
Okay, so Dr. Griffin has received the majority of the votes for vice chair with 6 in a very close election.
Very good. Thank you and congratulations, Mr. Griffin. We will now repeat this process one more time for secretary. We have 3 individuals nominated for secretary, Dr. Ann Bullitt, Dr. Hank Weddington, and Ms. Madison Edwards.
Please
I don't
withdraw
want
my
to make
name.
any
Thank you.
assumptions. Okay, so at this point, we have 2 individuals, Hank Weddington and Madison Edwards for secretary. So that's 2 names. I will open up nominations for anyone else. Hearing none, I'll accept a motion to close nominations.
this is Chris again. I make a motion that we close the secretary nominations.
Is Randy second?
Great. Thank you. Motion made and seconded to close nominations. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Nominations are now closed. We will move into a roll call vote for, I cannot say vote today, roll call vote for Secretary of Pepsi. Dr. Bullock, if you will call the roll.
I will, and again, following our protocol, you will either vote for Dr. Weddington or Miss Edwards for secretary. As you can tell, sometimes it's a very busy position as of today. All right, ready? Dr. Blanton. Dr. Blanton,
Miss Edwards,
Ms. Wisner,
Miss Edwards.
Dr. Fleming,
Miss Edwards.
Miss Edwards,
I'm going to abstain again.
thank you. Ms. Patton,
Miss Edwards.
Dr. Locklear's not here. Dr. Elliott,
Hank Weddington.
Dr. Penfield,
Ms. Edwards?
Superintendent Truitt,
Ms. Edwards?
Mrs. Jones,
I'm abstaining.
Thank you. Ms. Hoskins,
Miss Edwards?
Dr. Weddington,
Miss Edwards.
Dr. Griffin, Mr. Smith, Dr. Floyd, and Ms. Jenkins are not here, and Dr. Winter, Dr. Weddington. And right, 1, 2, 3. 9 votes for Miss Edwards, which is majority, and 2 votes for Dr. Weddington. Kim, is that what you have?
I think you are accurate.
Okay. So congratulations, Miss Edwards.
Congratulations, Ms. Edwards, on being elected to Secretary of Pepsi.
Thank you, everybody.
We are about to close out the meeting, but I do want to thank everyone for the 2 or 3 months the support you've given me to serve vice chair at the chair position. But I will tell you, I'm pretty excited that I get to go back to being a Pepsi member and hearing all of this information and taking it in. But I do want to thank very quickly Dr. Van Dempsey for his leadership of Pepsi and all the hard work he did. And we definitely miss him. And I want to thank all the DPI staff. Not to pick a favorite, but I have to with Dr. Evans, because she's the one that prepares all these meetings and gets me prepared and gets everything organized to the membership, emailed out to the membership. And also thank you, Dr. Evans, for your work for the commission. So for the final time, thank you, commission members, advisors, and staff for your participation, your preparation for the discussions. I'll remind commission members that our next monthly meeting will be held in a hybrid manner. If you come in person, it'll be at 7th floor, State Board of Education boardroom at DPI, as well as virtually on Thursday, November 9th from 3:30 to 6:30 p.m. We have now completed our meeting, and unless there is additional business at this time, I ask for a motion to adjourn.
This is Miss Jones, so moved.
Miss
Is there a
Edwards.
second? Thank you very much. Motion been made and properly seconded. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Hearing none, we are now adjourned. And thank you, everybody, for your participation. Have a great rest of your day.